What's up, everybody? So this aims to be a comprehensive guide on Mordhau's replay demo feature. There's not really a whole lot of resources out there other than a few forum posts that have basically been copy-pasted all over the place, like on Reddit and stuff. So what I wanted to do is put together a guide to show you guys all of the different things that you can do that I'm aware of inside of Mordhau's demo mode. A bunch of tips and tricks for things that you might not have known if you're already familiar with the demo mode, and how I've set up a few different programs, one of which is Stream Deck, another of which is something called AutoHotkey, to make it so that I can very quickly control, almost like a remote control, the demo mode without having to mess with the console commands at all, because that can be cumbersome and it doesn't really lend itself well to kind of immersive content creation, when you're using the demo feature and trying to record something cinematically. So in order to start, the first thing you have to know is to hit the tilde key, which is the key right above your tab key. That will open up the console down below. This is where you can type in commands. First things first, if you hit up, it will give you kind of a history of the different commands that you've entered. So that's really useful to know kind of off the bat. But the first thing that we're going to do right now is demorec, which is basically telling it to start recording a demo, and you give it a name. For now, I'll give it, YouTube demo 1. Hit enter. It's now recording the demo from this point. So let's just go ahead and we'll get in a fight, and then we can use that as an example. Sick. Okay, so what we can do now is open up the console, and we can type in demo play YouTube demo 1. Cool. So now we can see we literally have started right back where we started recording the demo. So first things first, I'm going to actually use the Stream Deck to get me in a better spot here. Okay, so as you can see right now, I'm in kind of this free camera mode. Use WASD to move the camera around, use the mouse to change, the look. You should be familiar with these types of controls. Q and E allow you to move up and down along the Z-axis, basically vertically. And as you can see, I'm hitting the ground. So the first two things I do when I get into demo mode is make it so that the camera is essentially in cinematic mode. So SpectatorCmd. Now you can actually start typing. It will show you autocomplete options, and you can tab to complete. So Spectator Command, cinematic. This turns it into a really cool customizable camera. If you don't want this and you just want the other camera, fine. But so now we're in cinematic camera mode. And then usually what I'll do as well is I will do Spectator Command Noclip. This allows you to move through surfaces with the camera. It's just easier to kind of navigate the recording with Noclip on. So the first two hotkeys I want to show you guys involve saving the position of a camera. If you hit the letter T on your keyboard, that will save the position of the camera. So if at any point you change the camera and you want to go back to where you were, if you hit R on the keyboard, it'll reset the camera back to the previously saved position. So that's super handy if you have, a camera position that you might want to return to later on. Just hit T. By default, it's like under the map, and sometimes you can get kind of stuck there. So it's just nice to be able to find like a nice area that all the action is going to be that you're going to want to record. Hit T, save it, and then quickly come back to it at any time. So as we can see right now, I'm actually at the end of the demo. One of the things that's interesting to note is that the demo mode, it's not a video. the demo mode essentially, and I don't know the specifics of it, but for all intents and purposes, it's recording all of the inputs of the character, all the controls of each of the players, and it's using the game engine to replay it back in real time. So there are some things that kind of manifest from that. One being, if you're going to be doing things like changing speed and such, that actually affects the physics of the game engine. So sometimes you can get some funkiness. Most notably, that every time you play it back, you're not guaranteed to get the same result. Sometimes, if you're playing something back at full speed, you might cut a character's arm off. If you're playing it back at half speed, you might not cut their arm off. You might, just hit them in the torso, and they might go flying, spinning up in the air. So just keep that in mind. There's some funkiness that goes on here, but if something happens that you didn't expect, it's because of the the idiosyncrasies of the demo playback mode. So let's go ahead and we'll restart this demo play YouTube demo 1. So first things first, you want to pause the demo. You type demo pause, enter. Pauses the demo. Now keep in mind, at this point, any of the commands you do won't really take effect until after you unpause the demo. So if you're trying to mess with camera settings or do whatever, it's actually not going to work until you unpause it. The way you unpause it is not by hitting demo play, but by doing demo pause again. So having that history is really important, because you can do tilde up, enter, pause, do the same tilde up, enter, and you can pause, unpause, pause, unpause to your heart's content. But that's how we pause the playback. We know how to pause. We know how to save and reset the camera. Let's go over some more camera controls. The scroll wheel can be used to change the speed of the camera, as long as you are in cinematic mode. Let me caveat this with, once you enter cinematic mode, you are able to do a whole bunch of really cool things. The first one is going to be the camera speed with scroll wheel. So I'm scrolling down until right now. I've scrolled down so far that I'm actually frozen. Now, if I scroll up, you can see I'm very slowly able to pan by hitting, WASD, scroll up slowly, faster, 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 faster. So you can get some really cool shots this way. By changing the speed with scroll wheel on your mouse. Now, as you'll notice, there are things that are in focus, out of focus. When you're in spectator mode, think of it like an actual camera. I'm not a camera expert. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of camera things here. If you're a camera person, forgive me. I'm going to be speaking in sort of layman's terms. But the first thing you can control with the camera, that's, in my opinion, one of the most important, is the F key. If you hit the F key, that will focus the camera on whatever's in the center of the screen, basically. So, for here, it's that back wall. And then all of a sudden, if I put him in the center of the screen, it focuses on him. If I want to focus on this guy's face, once I zoom in, hit F, and it becomes focused. And you can really start to see some of the crazy cool detail on these characters, and also some of the funky graphical glitches as well. So F to focus. The next thing I'm going to show you guys is, if you hit the I key, it brings up this kind of scrubber at the bottom. So this will let you control where in the playback you are. Now keep in mind that by default you changed that the value of the playback. You're actually going to be paused. Now, for the longest time, I thought that these buttons were broken, but it turns out that they require you to double click them. So if you want to resume, you can resume, but keep in mind you're in the context of this play bar down here, so you can't move the camera or anything like that. If you want to exit this menu, hit F, and now you're back to, the normal cinematic camera mode. So now that we've just hit the you know, basically the end of this video, or we will very shortly. If we want to go back, hit I, scroll all the way back here, double click resume, hit F, and there we go. Now, all resume and pause those buttons do, they're only sending console commands. So you'll see if you open this up and you hit pause, you can actually see that all pause and resume are doing are setting the demo.timedilation value. So the cool thing about the time dilation value is that you can change the playback speed. So if you set it to 1, which is the default, that's normal speed. If you set it to 2, we are now at double speed. If you set it to 0.1, we are now at 10% speed. Now, this is what I was talking about before with changing the speeds and having the game engine kind of get a little bit wonky. You know, this body wasn't flying up earlier, but as soon as you change the speeds, things can get a little bit funky. But you can turn this down pretty freaking far. I wouldn't recommend going too far past like 1% speed. Like I said, you really start to get some really funky behavior when you change the speeds while you're playing. This can lead to some pretty funny funny footage for sure. You can, like I said, set pretty much any value you want here. I tend to go anywhere from, you know, 0.1 all the way up to, you know, 5 or 10 if I really want to fast forward quickly. Whoa. So this is at 10x the speed. Let's go back to the beginning here. Okay. If you want to change the camera position to a player, all you need to do is left click on your mouse, and now you're going to be at the perspective of the player. But keep in mind that pretty much all of the spectator cinematic camera settings don't apply here. You can't do anything really other than set like the demo values, such as, you know, time dilation. So you can set it to be half speed, 10% speed, you know, whatever, while you're in this mode. If you want to get back into cinematic, just do SpectatorCmd cinematic, and then you're back to kind of this free camera mode. Let's see. One thing I want to mention before I forget is that all of these things you're doing to put like the camera in cinematic mode and spectator mode, all that stuff, it actually will affect the game normally. So if you leave here, which you can do by doing demo stop, it will take you back out to the main menu. But I don't want to do that right now. If you leave the game and go play normally, your UI is basically spectator mode at that point, so you won't see a lot of the HUD elements. I don't know if there's a way around it, if there's a way to fix it other than just quitting the game. Usually if I'm doing like demo recording stuff, I'm not intending to play the game. So I'll just reboot the game if I need to in between there. But the next few things I want to get into are honestly the coolest parts of the demo mode, and that's the kind of camera and lens customization. So the first one that we're going to do is changing the lens property, LENS. So SpectatorCmd lens. Now this, I believe, changes the zoom value. So I think the default is 50. So keep in mind the default's 50. If you want to zoom in, like kind of 2x, you can do SpectatorCmd lens 100. If you want to zoom in twice as much as that, you can do 200. You start to get funky where you really zoom in, and you can go too far for sure, to the point where like it's really hard to control the camera. But again, here's where you can get some really amazing detailed shots if that's what you're going for. So the other cool thing that you can do here is you can change the depth of field, basically the aperture of the lens. So most cameras have anywhere between like 1.4 and I think 22. I actually had to Google this. And it seems like that's the values for minimum and maximum that the game allows you to set. So like a normal aperture setting might be 4 for a camera, where, you know, the background's a little bit blurry, but you're still focused on this guy's face. If you don't want the background to be blurry at all, you can max out the aperture at 22, and now pretty much everything is sort of in focus. You don't really have to worry too much about focusing, although you're still going to want to focus when you can, because there is a slight difference between the foreground and the background. If you want to get like maximum depth of field, I think that's the right way of putting it. Basically, super shallow depth of field, you can do 1.4. I think this is the smallest. I'm not sure. I really have just been experimenting. That's where you get some really crazy cinematic, where like even the hand in the foreground and the sword is blurry. The background's totally blurry, but the face is in focus. Or you want to focus on like the hilt of the sword. Sometimes it's hard because you don't have a crosshair to place it where you want to focus. There we go. There's also the ability to manually change the focus to like a number value, but the problem is that you don't really have a whole lot of reference there. So like I just start hunting for values. So like 100 is bad, 200 is a little getting better, 500 is not as good. So yeah, I mean, if you really want to hunt, you can hunt for the right value. So that actually seems pretty good for now. And like I said, there's probably ways to like make it better. But yeah, that's one way to get it to where the focus is maybe a little bit more precise than what the autofocus by hitting F, is going to give you. Let's see, what else is there? I think I've gone over most of the things that I wanted to go over. I'll show you guys a few more things that make my life easier in the actual, demo recording maintenance process. So we'll jump to that right now. All right, so the last piece of info that I want to show you guys is how I used a program called AutoHotkey that I had to basically Google. There might be better alternatives out there. Honestly, I'm not really sure. This was the first one I found, and it seems to be working great. So what this does is it basically lets you assign hotkeys to different, commands, functions, whatever. What I did was I downloaded AutoHotkey. I gave it an install, followed their setup directions. What I can do is I can show you guys and provide in the description the script contents for this script, so that, if you want to set this up yourself, you can. But basically, I have hotkeys from, this is, you don't need to know the details, really, but this basically means whenever I hit Control F1 through Control F15, I'm going to send a command, which is tilde, which opens up the console, and then I'm going to type in demorec demo underscore, which basically allows me to just have a prefix for all my demos. Then I'll be able to type in the demo name and hit enter, and it'll start recording. If I want to stop playing a demo, I can hit Control F2, and that will hit tilde, type in demostop into the console, and hit enter pretty much right away. If I want to replay a demo, it does basically the opposite of demo record. Just waits for you to enter in the name of the demo, and then once you press enter, it'll start replaying the demo that you've previously recorded. F4 I have set to normal speed. F5 I have set to 10% speed. F6 I have set to 1% speed. F7 I have set to the two commands that I enter always when I enter demo mode, which was set the spectator mode to cinematic, hit enter, open up the console again, and then turn on Noclip. So that's all one command right here with F7. If I hit F8, it's essentially the same as T, and F9 is R, so save the camera, reset the camera. F10 will pause the demo, and then 11 through 15 is some default and minimum maximum values for things like the lens zoom and the aperture settings. So I have that coupled with my Stream Deck software because I actually have a Stream Deck for my game PC and a Stream Deck for my stream PC. So here's the setup that I have. So for example, this button right here, the hotkey is Control F1. So this will basically trigger this command. These are all the commands I have, basically all 15 of them I have set up here. If I want to do more, I could put some more in folders and stuff. This isn't a Stream Deck tutorial, but I didn't want them to interfere with anything else, so I had them all be like Control plus the F keys, which if you have a hotkey, you can open up the drop down here, go to F keys, you can hit Control while you're in this menu, and you can assign it to any one of those things. So let me just show you guys how this looks in action. So first of all, you would double click the AutoHotkey script. It will start it running, so that it can be running in the background kind of all the time. And I'm gonna go ahead and, as soon as I get into the menu, first and foremost, you need to get into a game. Like I said, if you don't get into a game, you're not gonna be able to move the camera, which is really annoying. So let's just hop into the first game we can load. And join the match. So now I'm basically ready to go. So I'm going to hit my hotkey for play. It opens up demoplay, demo underscore, but I called it YouTube demo 1. So then I'm going to hit my cinematic button, which does the 2 commands to turn on Noclip and cinematic mode. So now if I want to pause, unpause, save the camera, reset the camera. If I want to zoom in and do a shallow depth of field in slow motion, I can do that by doing, here, here, and here. And that's how I set up the Stream Deck with all of the different hotkeys and commands, along with AutoHotkey, to be able to record really awesome demos really easily by basically using a remote control here, not having to worry about the console commands ever again. But like I said, if you're not interested in the Stream Deck or any hotkeys on your keyboard or with AutoHotkey, just ignore it. And you should be able to use the commands that I will put all the descriptions of and how they're used and everything down in the description below. If there's anything that I missed, feel free to let me know. But I really can't wait to see what kind of super cool content you guys can make with what I taught you here. So can't wait. Feel free to send me any of your cinematic footage, and maybe I'll do a compilation or something like that. Hit me up on Discord. I'd love to see what you have to do, and good luck fighting out there. See you later, guys.